Hello there, Force of Will players, and welcome back to another video. Today what I'm going to be doing is while I was building the Wanderer Wednesday deck from yesterday, the Lumia Olympians deck, it came across my mind of how weird deck building can sometimes be. Because when I had first started building that deck, that was not the deck I had in mind. It was actually something completely different, and then it eventually morphed into it. So what this video is going to be is I'm actually going to try and recreate the thought process and what I went through while I was building that deck, in order to get to it, to kind of help maybe show people who aren't super comfortable with building decks, maybe who might be more interested in deck building and want to look at like the thoughts of how I do it, ever since I have to do one a week, if not more when we get new sets, and then just the things I think about, and so on and so forth, right? So we're going to get right on into it. So I have both tabs open, so I have the list pulled up from the video that I did, and then I just have a new untitled deck ready to be made. This is all being done on forceofwin.online. Feel free to make an account in order to create decks. It's a great database, great deck website, etc., etc. So how did I start? Well, normally when people want to start building a deck, they have some kind of concept in mind, right? Very rarely do people have to do what I do, which is I have to find something that interests me every week in order to kind of immediately do it. Sometimes I'll take suggestions that people have done and see if I can spin that. But I typically want to just do things that I find exciting or potentially fun. So a lot of the times, people will already have that in mind. So you don't have to really stay on this step a whole lot. The step's kind of already taken care of. But for me, in order to find that, there are typically a few things I look for. One, I either try to abuse a card or I try to abuse a ruler. So those are the two things. So a lot of the time, what I'll do is I'll just come to advanced search, I'll search card types, and then I'll just hit ruler, and then just go through it. So, and then I just look through all of these, oh, I haven't made a Dante deck yet, right? Okay, so maybe I can, am I interested in Dante? Am I interested in what Dante is potentially doing? Like Violet, I've already made a Violet deck, but maybe I'm interested in Violet machines, right? Because we've kind of lost the identity of what Violet was beforehand. Haven't done a Wolfgang deck, maybe I'm interested in that. I'll never be interested in Brad. And you can keep kind of going on down the list, and then eventually you'll find one that you might like. And you could even use previous knowledge. So I've been playing the game since the Twilight Wanderer, the set in which the first Dark Alice came out in. I think it's actually right on the next page. Page 5. Yeah, so I've been playing since, the release of R&R, basically. So I started playing with the release of Valentina, R&R, and Girl in Twilight Garb, Sylvia, and Alice, Girl of the Lake. So these were the 5 rulers that came out when I started playing the game. So I have a bunch of knowledge kind of prior, because I've been playing the game since almost its inception. Maybe I think only 2 years had gone by the time I had started playing. So I have a lot of knowledge to work off of. So there are older rulers that I might be interested in playing, like R&R potentially. Like Valentina was really interesting when Regalia Beast came out, and other things like that. The reveal effects from outside the game, Origin of the 7 lands in order to proc it early. There are these certain synergies that come up because of these older rulers. So looking at that, that's what I first look for. So what I wanted when I started making this deck was I did not want to abuse a ruler. I knew the card I wanted to abuse, and I knew it was Huang Wang. Not the 6-drop one. I wanted to abuse the 2-drop one. I wanted to make a 4 Sacred Beasts deck. That was what I was initially going to do. And so I thought, okay, how best can I abuse 4 Sacred Beasts? What are the rulers around 4 Sacred Beasts? So obviously it's Prisia, right? So the Prisia that came out with these cards, with the retrain basically of 4 Sacred Beasts, there's that Prisia, the Alice Origins Prisia. There's original Prisia, and the ascended version of her, or I can try and just abuse the enter effect, right? And what abuses enter effects best? Things that blink. What blinks? There are two options for blinking. One, you can either do a ruler. If you're unaware of what the terminology for blinking is, by the way, blinking is when you an effect removes something from the game and immediately puts it back into play, all in the same effect. It's not like a delay. No, it can be delayed, but mainly blinking is something leaves the field and immediately comes back into play. It's a new card. So what blinks? Lumia, LEL Lumia blinks very well, just because it's on the ruler side, so I always have access to it. And then there are just other blink cards, typically in light. So light has a lot of blinking. So I'm already in green and red, so adding light isn't that great of a play. But I knew I wanted to play 4 Huang Long, so you throw those in there, right? And then you just search up 4 Sacred Beasts, right? So we have our 4 Sacred Beasts. This is before the ruler, right? Etc., etc. And then you can briefly look through here. It'll even pop up the rulers like, oh, right, maybe you forgot that Prisia has, you can pay the attribute of 4 Sacred Beasts with any will. Maybe you forgot about Ascended Prisia. Horns in there too. And then I just add one ofs, and then I'll change the number count later. So that's what I found for 4 Sacred Beasts. And then it was, how do I abuse Huang Long, right? That was the full thought process of that. So the best way I found for blinking was going to be Lumia, okay? So we add the ruler, and now we're kind of here. So now we're in this Lumia blinking deck. So now now I have to find a way, how do I best rest my Huang Longs? And there are a couple ways to do it. One, swiftness is a very good way to rest Huang Long. Or just like, again, the mono light Lumia decks that use like Shining Strike in order to rest like Soul, like things like that that may have resting effects in order to self-rest your cards. However, the old Lumia decks, this was, again, working off of prior knowledge I had from the past, there were decks that came out with Lumia that showed some success using Autoraktia City of Verdant Green with Winds of the Ominous Moon. So Autoraktia City of Verdant Green, the reason it was so successful in Lumia is because Lumia herself has red energize. So it allowed you to energize out Autoraktia as long as you had some form of green will. So as long as your Magic Stone deck had 10 green sources, if you went second, you could always play an Autoraktia City of Verdant Green turn 1. And then the other thing with the Autoraktia City of Verdant Green was, at the time, mana dorks were a lot more impactful. So you could play Autoraktia, and then you could play a Sacred Elf, and then that Sacred Elf would have swiftness, so you could tap that Sacred Elf for green, immediately play some other 1-drop like a Tama, something like that, right? Because Tama you could also blink to get value at the time, so it was like that kind of essence. And then you could blink the Sacred Elf at the end of the turn with Lumia, so it would allow you to just get more mana. You would have mana going into your opponent's turn, and then the following turn, right? The following turn you would be at, unless your opponent did something, you would have Autoraktia, Sacred Elf, and then 2 stones, one from calling from the previous turn and one from that turn. And with that 4 will, you could play Rachel, 3-drop Rachel, and then that Rachel, you would proceed to flicker it over and over again, and it would generate you a bunch of value, and you would kind of lock down your opponent's deck. So that was that old version of the deck. But Autoraktia works very well with Huang Long, because the 2 colors it produces are both of Huang Long's colors. So regardless, you'll be able to give Huang Long swiftness, which means you'll be able to play Huang Long turn 1, right? We'll get into the turn 1 in a second. You can play Huang Long turn 1, you can swing with Huang Long, you'll get another Sacred Beast from him just entering, and then you'll flicker and you'll get another Sacred Beast. And so that was what I was starting the deck with. So now I'm at 4 Huang Long, 4 Autoraktia. Right, so now we're working with this. So now, in my head, I am now in this deck that is green-red. Those are my 2 primary colors. I want to play Autoraktias, I want to play Huang Longs, and then I have the 4 Sacred Beasts just kind of in here. So at this point, I'm looking at Horn, and I'm thinking, okay, well, Horn is still okay. Like, it's still okay as a tech option. However, I'm probably not going to ever use the produce 1 to play 4 Sacred Beasts, right? Even though I can use that will to play all 4 of them, right? King Long, Zhuanwu, Zhuke, and Baihu. You can play all of them with that will, because they all have generic in their cost somewhere. But I'm probably not going to use it. So I start moving cards I think I might use, but I'm not super sure of, into my sideboard. And so now I have like the base. Again, we'll work on count in like a little bit. And now what else do I want? So with that Autorochtia play line, energize into 1, I can produce 1 fire or green will in order to play a card, but I will not ramp beyond that, right? So I can't play Huanglong turn 1. What's a very good card that gives you free green will that recently came out? Drywing. So now I just add 4 Drywing, and I add Origin of the 7 lands. To the deck. So my thing with Origin, you can always start with 4 if you want. How I work with Origin is if I have a way to discard it, or like put it back into my deck, or like anything like that, basically turn extra Origins into other cards. I typically start with 4, or if that turn 1 is incredibly impactful and I need that turn 1, I'll start with 4. Otherwise, I typically like to play 3 Origin. But so now I'm at Origin Drywing, right? So now with Origin Drywing, I now have Call Stone, tap the stone, activate Origin, filter into green for Drywing, get, and let's just say it's a 5-color stone, right? It's Moonshades. I get an extra will of whatever, and I have energize, energize, red, green, play Autorochtia, and then the other will in order to play Huanglong. Now I have that amount of will in order to do my turn 1 Huanglong plays. The other way, no, that wouldn't have worked either. The other way that you would ramp in like a green deck or other things like that would be with dinner times. So those are the ways that main decks cheat mana nowadays. And so that was what I decided to work with. So now I have Origin. So now I'm thinking about, okay, well, I have Origin. Is there anything else I want to do with Origin? Like, do I want to play the other Origin cards or anything like that? So I thought about the other Origin cards, and the Mechanized Children, these bad boys, have enter effects. And the thing is, when they're revealed, they give you their sack token. They also allow you to destroy the things. They allow you to destroy themselves. So the other thing with it is they don't target, so you don't actually destroy or target or do anything like that on resolution until resolution. So with Mechanized Children of Kronos specifically, Gaia is also okay. I think I ended up adding both to the deck. Yeah, I ended up adding both. But so with this, because they're enters and they're machines themselves, when you reveal them, you'll get the token. You'll also get the darkness mana to play them. And then one other, you'll play it, you can sack off the token, and then if you play it with Autorochtia and you swing with it, you can rest it and then do it again at the end of turn by sacking itself. So like Mechanized Children of Kronos is a discard 4 on a single turn, right? As long as your opponent can't deal with it somehow. And then same kind of thing with Mechanized Children of Gaia, it's a banish 4, right? So I just added both of them, and that's like a thing you can think about, right? So I added that. Now I'm kind of out of Origins, right? I don't think there's anything else I really want to do with Origin. You could add Rogue Spectator to your sideboard, just other generic, like, good, you can play it from outside the game type stuff. But I didn't want to do that. Like, feel free to if you want, but I didn't. So now we're here. So now I need to think about what else does this deck want. Well, it's in green, so I'm just going to add a one of these, and I'll work on numbers later, right? Fair's Spell and Garyon. So I'm just gonna, oh, not two, it's one. So I'm just gonna add all 3 of those. They're just good green will cards, and I'll worry about the other stuff later. So now I need a value engine. And so what I do here is I look for draw a card. Exact, green and red, and then I search. So I wanted a value card, right? It's because my Huanglong is going to get things. Kinglong is potentially going to draw me cards. So there is the potential that I'll want to add more Kinglongs to the deck, because then I can flicker the Kinglongs and that can be my value engine. But I wanted to see if there is any other potential value engine for me to play. So I'm scrolling through. I see the Persephone. I'm not really intent on playing Persephone. I already have Lorite after all. I can't play them together, and I'd rather have Lorite in the deck. Scrolling through, can I play Finalizing? I do have additions. It's okay. It's not great because, I mean, my additions are 2 mana. I'm typically not going to be playing more than 1. I don't think I want more additions, so we're just going to leave off on the Finalizing for now. And so I scrolled through here and came across Melfi, which I did think about adding Melfis to this for a bit. And I think I might have not done exact on the search or something like that. But while I did the search, let's just say contains all. So while I did the search, I came across Magna and Lenneth. Okay, and so Magna and Lenneth is the thing with Magna and Lenneth is it has the draw to, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of funny that that's there. And then I read the text, and Magna and Lenneth also give swiftness. So it was just another way to give things swiftness, and the fact that it could give itself swiftness without needing Autorock Dia. And so I saw that, and I was like, oh, you could just play new 12 Olympians because they all have really good enter effects. And the idea of, like, Lumia is to cheese enter effects. And the whole thing with Zeus is his order, and Zeus enters the Game of Gods, and, like, everything like that is activating those enter effects. Maybe it would be good if we just did a deck of new 12 Olympians and just tried and abused their enters. Because it's Union 7, it's not based off of like Revolution or anything like that. I don't have any villains. Maybe I just want to try that instead. And so that's where my mind went. So I deleted Huang Long and all the 4 Sacred Beasts. And then I went and found the Olympians, and then I added all of the Olympians. Advanced search. Get rid of those. Get rid of that. And then new 12 Olympian gods. Search. And so we added a Hestia, we had an Apollon, we had a Poseidon, we had an Artemis, we had a Hades, an Aphrodite, an Ares, an Athena, a Hera, and then we have Magna and Lenneth and Persephone. And then we have that. Right? So now I'm here. And now I'm thinking, all right, well, Magna and Lenneth is the one I want to abuse, right? So we'll increase that count. If I'm playing Persephone, I can't be playing Lorite anymore, so we'll get rid of that. Plus this will be like my interaction, so we'll increase that count. Apollon is like okay, he's good as like a form of removal. His end board is kind of interesting, but I'm not really like intent on like trying to just slam Apollons or anything like that. Poseidon is an infinite, so I just increased him to 2 because I knew at this point I was going to be playing for Magic Stone and Moonshade because of just the colors that I'm in. Magic Stone of Moonshade. Like that's just like part of it, right? Is that you're just like because you have just like all these colors, you're just already here. You're just already thinking about it. Hestia is an interesting thing because she is just a thunder, so you'd be able to do 1200 per Hestia because she has swiftness inherently. So I thought about increasing Hestia. Artemis I also thought about increasing. The weird part about Artemis is that the recover up to 2 stones you control, it works well. It gives you mana to work with. And I don't remember if I mentioned this in this video, but I would not be against increasing the count of Artemises to like 2 or 3. Probably wouldn't play 4. But so I wouldn't be against that. But it doesn't give you more mana, right? So like I would get mana going into my opponent's turn, or I could get free will like at the end of turn to like play something with like quick cast, like Apollon or another Artemis, or like other things like that. But there aren't really a lot of new 12 Olympian gods I want to play at quick cast speed, right? So I decided to keep her at 1. Hades, I'm not in darkness at all, so I just kept him for the name. Aphrodite, I thought about maybe going, I think I kept her at 2 for a little bit, just because gain 2000, draw a card. She's also kind of your value engine as well. Ares, I actually kept at 1 for a while. Athena, I put to 2 because she's just her own win con, and blinking her is also kind of insane. And then Hera, I kept at, I think I put to 2 initially as well, because of its like freehand discard, right? So this is where I kind of got to with the Olympians and everything. And if you look, we still have the 1 Fair Spell, the 1 Garyon, the 4 and the 4, and we're already at 31 cards. So now if I'm a new 12 Olympians, so now I've completely pivoted. The first idea I had, this deck, this whole Lumia Olympians deck started because I wanted to play Huanglong. Keep that in mind. I don't have Huanglong in this deck anymore. So the whole deck building process has completely shifted from how it initially started, which I find very interesting, right? And so now I'm in a way of, okay, well, now I'm blinking them. I have their enter effects. I can abuse them with Autorochtia and Origin and like get them to swing and things like that, right? Magna and Lenneth is doing it as well, so maybe I can cut down on copies of Autorochtia, other things like that, right? So now, how do I get to Union 7? Because Union 7 is the win con. While putting out Olympians is good, they're okay for just what they are, for their effects. You win the game by hitting Union 7, right? That's the whole idea behind the Asmodeus Belial deck, right? You Asmodeus, remove 7 from the top of your deck in order to hit it as quick as possible. What removes cards from the top of my deck? Attendant of Asmodeus. So in my head, whenever I think I need cards in a public zone, or I need cards in my grave, or anything like that, the first 2 cards that always come to my head are Attendant of Asmodeus and Harvesting Season. The reason for that is Attendant of Asmodeus is a mana ramp in the first place. So just playing him naturally is fine, in addition to the effect that he just gives you the 5 cards, right? So that's part of why Attendant of Asmodeus is always in my head. 1, it removes those 5 cards that I might want in a public zone, and it's also technically mana ramp, but also mana recovery, so I don't actually commit that 2-will to anything. I'm basically paying 0 mana to remove 5 cards from the top of my deck. Or, if you want to think about it, I'm gaining 1 mana, as long as I'm at 3 stones, right? So now we're at Attendant of Asmodeus. So we kind of have a form of... Oh wait, I didn't even add it. So now I have Attendant. So we're going to put 4 Attendants in the deck, because I want to remove cards. So now we're at 4 Attendant, and now I'm at 35 cards. So the other thing is, how do I want to spend early mana, right? Like, so if I'm here, what are other good cards in order for me to dump? Well, I want Origin. Like, I want 4 Origin. I want to get Drywing. I want to do this, like, quasi-mana ramp type thing. How else can I go about, like, Origins, right? And as well as getting new 12 Olympian God names. It was a recently released card, which is why I think about it all the time. That's Conclave. So Conclave is just a bunch of draw. It's in the color for Autorochtia, which is another thing to think about. So even if you just play the Autorochtia, if you don't have something to play turn 1 with it, you still have Conclave. So now I can add 4 Conclave to the deck. And this is also like a value engine for me, right? Because like if I play Conclave and I have 2 Origins in my hand, as well as like 2 Magna and Lenneth, these other Olympians who I don't want multiple names, they're just there for names, right? They're free cards. They turn into free cards. I get interaction, I get cards I actually want, like other things like that, right? So that's the good part about Conclave. The other thing that you can start thinking about is when this card is discarded. Oh wait, you need to do exact. I think that has... So like when this card is discarded, a lot of it is by a spell or ability your opponent controls, or in the case of like the atoms and other things like that, Or there's also the wording can be kind of weird. The main one is like you can think about stuff like Charlotte's Protector. Right, so when this card is put into a graveyard from your hand, draw a card. So like Charlotte's Protector with Conclave, very good. You don't actually discard anything, right? People were playing it in Violet for the same kind of reason. So those are things you can think about, but with that addition of Conclave, we're now at 39 cards, and my Fair Spells and Garyons are still at 1 copy, and I'm thinking I want interaction, right? So now, if we take a look over here, we're still at like that same spot, right? So 4, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm at 39. I kind of have like mana ramp, and I can do Attendant early, right? So like instead of playing Huang Long turn 1, now I can play Attendant turn 1. And if I play Attendant turn 1, even if I'm only recovering 1 stone, I'm still able to get 10 cards removed from the top of my deck, right? Which will allow me to do a whole lot. In addition with the Attendant getting rid of getting you that stone, right? So like if I do the whole Origin Autorochtia Attendant playline, and I remove the 5, I get my stone. Because I know I'm going to get it again at the end of my turn, I can Conclave still on my opponent's turn, which means I'll be able to put 13 cards into a public zone. 10 random just from the top of my deck, and then 3 chosen from my hand. So it has like that kind of synergy with it, and then I'll still have interaction on my opponent's turn, albeit just 1 mana of it, but still interaction. So so with that is also like a playline. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I have my ramp. I kind of have my value in the form of like Magna and Lenneth. Persephone is also technically value because you draw a card when you destroy like the J Resonator. Aphrodite is like also value. So I don't really need value anymore. I have value already. So now I'm at the point of, okay, well, I have my win con, I have value, I have ramp. Now I just need interaction. So I want to increase these to like 3s basically. So now I need to get rid of 3 cards. Well, I don't want to draw 4 Persephones, right? So the thought process first is like, can I cut these down, these 4 cost one, or these 4-ofs down? Well, I don't really want to draw 4 Persephones. The other thing with Persephone is if I do play it for my for the enter effect, you do have to actually destroy the card that you're targeting. And a lot of things nowadays they'll have Eternal or other things like that. Or your opponent can kill it in response to like gain value off of it. In the case of like Daji, Mass Produce Queen, right? Or like other things like that. Because this targets, they can either gain barrier, they can be sacked off for other forms of value, like other things like that, right? So it's even though it is value, it's not necessarily the best. So I dropped it down to 3 copies. And then scrolling down, Poseidon, I still kept it 2 because I thought, okay, this is one I do want to draw. I want to try and get to Poseidon because you do just draw your whole deck with Poseidon. Aphrodite, I was like, well, even though it's a value engine, you don't really win the game off the back of Aphrodite. So I dropped 1 cut of that down, and then same kind of concept with Hera. It's a decent value engine, but it's not going to win you the game when you hit Union 7. So now we're here, right? So I have my interaction, and if we save the deck and we take a look at it real quick, this is what it kind of looks like. So we're here, but now I'm thinking, okay, well, I have the removal, like I have all of that, or I have the getting cards in my public zone, like I have all of that. I have like interaction in the form of Garyon Fair Spell. I'm not playing Lorites because I have Persephones. But if I look down here, I have a whole bunch of one-of names, and I'm not like a Zeus deck, right? So odds are I'm not going to be hitting 7 names super quickly, even though my turn 1, if I go uninterrupted, I can remove 13 cards from the top of my deck. And then I thought, well, this, while it does recover stones, like it gives me stones, it's not technically ramping me mana until I get to 3 stones. And I'm ramping via like Autorochtia, but I'm not ramping to 3 very quickly, right? Like, I don't have a way I'm actually ramping stones. So I thought, well, what are the old ways that you would ramp stones? Like, maybe I want, like, stone ramp in the deck, some other form of ramp to work with. Because I have the Attendant, I have the Origin, and I have Ataroctia, but I don't have any form of permanent stone ramp. And because of Drywing existing in the format, anything after turn 1 with something like Ataroctia, Origin, like anything like that, unless I have Decay of the Machines, is not, which, spoiler, that's partially why the darkness is in here. I'm not going to be able to like produce will off of them, right? I need stones. I need stones in order to produce will. So what are the best ways for me to get stones? Well, the old way that Lumia used to do it was via Gretel, but Gretel is banned. So what's the next best Gretel, right? So now we go back to edit decklist, and now we all know about Gretel the Dragon. A lot of people have. It's in green, it's in the right color, and the other thing with Guardian Dragon of the Kingdom, it's the same thing as Attendant, same thing as Wong Long. Because of Origin Ataroctia, you can play it and blink it turn 1, which allows you to get to 1, 2, 3. You would be at 4 stones on your second turn, because you would get 2 off of Guardian Dragon, and you would get 2 off of calling on your first turn, 1 off of calling on your second turn. So, I wanted Guardians, but I needed room. I can't cut any of these. This is my, like, end game, right? So I either have to cut stuff up here, or I'm cutting interaction. So I decided that Fair Spell is better than Garyon, and I added Guardian Dragon. The other thing, you can, in decks like these, go above 40. I just like to keep my decks to 40. Just a personal thing. But, so I added 4 Guardian Dragon. And then I thought, okay, well, I have the Guardian Dragons, I have the Conclaves, I have the Attendants. Like, odds are, I don't want to draw my Olympians, right? The only ones I want, I even want to think about seeing are Magna and Lenneth. That's the whole thing about that, right? So I can lower the Attendant count by 1. Right? Like, I'll remove them, but I don't really care about drawing them. Attendant, the more attendants you have, the worse it gets, technically, because it doesn't actually give you, like, any form of sticking value. Again, it's not actual ramp until you get 2, 3 stones, so on and so forth. The discard effect to banish an addition is decent, right? So I went down by 1 attendant in order to get to 40. So now I'm at Fair's Spell, Hera, Athena, and all these, and then save the deck again, and now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, you know, like, it's still okay, but I'm still concerned about names. I don't know yet, right? I haven't drawn a card, I haven't, like, drawn a hand or anything like that. I don't know how consistent it is to get to names, and this is through interaction, right? You can play around with all that kind of stuff. So now it's, how do I get names? Well, there's the way people have been doing it in Zeus, right? Like, if you think about how people do it in Zeus, is you can add more copies of the Olympians to your sideboard. So I took all of the Olympians I wasn't playing 4 of. In the exact case, we'll get to it in a second. But in the case of, like, Magna and Lenneth and other stuff like that, and I added them to the sideboard. So we'll just go back to new 12 Olympians, search race, new 12 Olympian gods, and search. And then I just added 1 of all of them into the sideboard. So add to side, add to side, add to side, add to side, add to side. And now I could get all these names in the event that I wouldn't have access to them. And now I'm at a 15 card sideboard, right? So now I'm thinking, at the exact time, I'm at a 16 card sideboard. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, actually, what if I just play Ares? Right? Because I reread Ares, because I had forgotten that Ares is, like, feasting. It's a ability cancel or a spell cancel, right? It's any of them, and it's based off the names of your new 12 Olympians. I have the extra green. We're ramping a shit ton. So odds are I should be able to play Ares as like a 2-mana actual counter spell that I can draw, as well as use as interaction on my opponent's turn. It'll be able to hit more things, it'll be able to hit abilities if I need them to, and I can't play Lorite, so I don't have a Stifle in the first place. So I got rid of 3 Fair spell, I went to 4 Ares, and I removed the Ares from the sideboard. We can move that up here, and then I saved the deck. And I mean, okay, you have to add the stones too. But so now at this point, it's like, what stones do I want? Okay, well, I'm in Conclave, which is red. I'm in Ataroctia, which is red. I know I play it off of the red Energize, but like predominantly red. I'm in Magna and Lenneth, which is red-white, and then Ares, which has like light, right? And then Persephone has darkness. So, and then a bunch of the new 12 Olympian gods have light. So, and then the Children of Kronos are darkness. So for me, I wanted the extra darkness effects at the time, so I did 2 Black Silence, add a Magic Stone deck, and then 4 Blasting Cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is what the list eventually became. If you want to play more light, it's perfectly fine. Just swap in light if you feel like you need it more than red. Again, you can change cuts. Like that's the whole thing of what deck building is. But I saw this and I thought, okay, this is pretty much what I want. For the most part, this is what I want to play. I want this to be the deck list, effectively, right? I have my attendance, I have my form of mana ramp as well as accelerant. I have a bunch of names. My deck is now over half Olympian names, right? I have my win cons in the form of Magna and Lenneth, Poseidon, as well as Athena are at higher counts. Interaction is also at higher counts, right? Now I have 7 forms of interaction in the new 12 Olympians, which just gives me things to do, basically. And I can also add them back to my hand with Poseidon, should I need to, in the form of like Ares, right? I have Drywing, Origin for ramp. I also have the Children as another form of interaction. My actual ramp, and then the Ataroctia is in order to play the turn 1 play lines. And my side deck is at 15 with all of the names in the event that I need them on a turn I want to pop off. And that is how I built this deck. So if you take a look at it, we're at the exact same counts for everything, I believe, right? 3 Persephone, 2, 2. Everything's just kind of maneuvered a little bit in different spots, right? 4 Ares, 4 Magna and Lenneth, 4, 4, and then 1 of all of those. And so that is how I built the most recent Wanderer Wednesday. So again, this was me kind of explaining my whole thought process. This wasn't as quick necessarily because I already kind of knew the cards that I was searching for this video, but a lot of the times you can, what I'll end up doing is searching for something on the database and scrolling through it. So like I showed for when I found Magna and Lenneth, searching through draw a card. What kind of value engine do I want? Other things like that. So that is the whole deck building process. That is typically how I go about deck building. And look for things and like other things like that. Again, it can be a little bit different if you have something that you want to do right off the bat, right? You don't have to search for something that you want to try and make work, try and break, or anything like that. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped out whoever enjoys this kind of stuff or needed some help with some deck building things or suggestions or anything like that. And I hope you enjoy like this kind of insight into my thought process and how I go about it. But thank you all so much for watching. Tomorrow I will have a spoilers video. It'll be my thoughts on the spoilers that have been coming out. It'll come out a little later than my videos usually do because the spoiler set for Friday won't come out until 4 p.m. PST. That is when they release typically. So you can expect it a little bit later. Okay. But again, thank you all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.